Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters, and Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years. Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Mary Kate Karr-Petras, and with me today is our creative editor, Lori Baker. And Lori is here. We're going to be talking about how to add fast corner, hanging corners.
Hanging corners.
To the back of, particularly a wall hanging quilt, and it's a nice alternative to a sleeve for a smaller project.
Right, quick and easy. We're just going to add pockets, corners, for a dowel. Mm-hmm. It has the advantage of then you can also hang it with just one nail in the wall, and you don't have to measure down from the ceiling twice to get it to hang straight.
Yeah, it's a nice thing, but the only thing is you have to think ahead because you're working it into your binding.
Correct.
So there's a little bit of that going on. It's not something where you finish your project and then you decide to hang it like this. So this is something you want to plan for.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're going to just take a scrap of any fabric that matches the back and that coordinates with the back of the quilt.
Or not. It doesn't have to coordinate.
Well, for me it has to coordinate. And then depending on the size of the wall hanging, we'll make our corners. For something as small as we're working with today, I cut 5-inch squares.
And did you have a formula you work from, or just sort of I think this will work?
Exactly. I just kind of guess.
I think this will work. So if it was a really small wall hanging, you 3-inch squares or whatever.
Exactly. And if it's big, a bigger pocket is fine. Mm-hmm. Once I have my 5-inch squares cut, I'm simply going to fold them in half diagonally.
Wrong sides together.
Wrong sides together. And press.
And you have
these nice. I have something that looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to pin those, and this is one of those funny stories. You want to pin it to the top of the quilt, not the side. Ask me how I know this.
Yes. But you would do this after you've quilted your quilt and trimmed your batting and backing fabric just before binding.
I am ready to bind.
Okay.
When I put my pockets on. So whatever the top of your quilt is, that's where the pockets need to go. And this is a place I pin because I'm working from the front of the quilt when I bind it.
And if you don't know Lori does not typically like to pin.
I don't.
So when Lori pins, it's because she really, really needs to.
Yes. Yeah. Pins give you confidence.
I want a little button with that.
Yes.
Yes, with that saying.
So we've got our pockets pinned on the top, and then we're just going to bind the quilt as usual.
Okay.
Now, I do have my label in place already because
that
goes as a part of the binding.
Keeps it in place.
Keeps everything in place.
Okay.
So here we are, and we've done a little bit of the binding. We're catching our pocket.
And if you're not using a walking foot up to this point, this might be a good time to put on your walking foot or engage your whatever function, the built-in walking foot, because you've got that many more layers.
You've got lots of layers.
And you don't want them all shifting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And just finish binding the quilt like you ordinarily would. There are a couple of things I want to point out, and one of them is that the bigger the wall hanging, the bigger the pocket, just for the stability.
Okay.
And it's important that the size of your dowel is pretty much end to end to keep things from sagging in the middle.
Yes.
I use a 3/8-inch dowel on most quilts.
Okay.
If it was very heavy, you might want to get a bigger dowel, but I think it'd have to be really heavy before I needed more than a 3/8-inch dowel.
Right, they seem pretty solid.
Yeah, I think so. I have done a fun thing on this little wall hanging. I thought that it would work well to hang either vertically or horizontally. Mm-hmm. So it's got 3 pockets. I can hang it this way, or I can hang it this way.
Right, and it gives you options.
Gives me options.
Yeah.
And we also
got this
have
nice larger one.
a fairly large wall hanging, and I put pockets in this. As I think back on it, I think I would like bigger pockets. It's going to be really important for this one that my dowel be exactly the right length so it doesn't sag in the middle. And if I had bigger pockets, that would give me a little extra stability.
Right. And this is, this is wide-ish. It's not huge.
Right.
But some people don't like, they think that you can't go above a certain size for this finish.
I've read 20 inches is the max, but I've also hung things that were wider than 20 inches using this method, and it worked. So I guess if it doesn't work, it's not that big a deal to go ahead and add a sleeve.
Right.
You can do that.
Right.
But I try this first because it's really quick and easy.
Very quick and easy. And you would just finish your binding in your typical fashion, and you like to machine finish your bindings.
Correct.
But if somebody's hand finishing, a lot of people still like to hand finish their bindings. Any words of wisdom?
Yes. I would go ahead and stitch the pocket in place by machine for that strength that machine stitching.
Sure.
And then you could turn
when you
your
turn it
binding
around.
and do that hand stitching on the back.
And probably go through.
I think you'd only need to go through the pocket
for the most part, because you'd probably just be right over your seam line, and
Right.
it won't be lifting it up too much
Right.
or anything.
Right.
It'll keep it nice and secure.
I think so.
Yeah.
If somebody that does handwork tries something else and finds something a better way, I'd sure like to know about it.
Yeah. So, and as far as when you hang it, you just use a nail, and it keeps it nice and balanced.
Right,
and
right. You can, when you hang it, if you're not centered, then all you have to do is slide it till it is centered and hang straight. So I like that.
Yeah,
part.
and the nice thing is that then the nail is hidden behind the quilt,
Correct.
and you don't have that hanger
Correct.
kind of peeking up above it,
Yeah.
as you might with usually a picture frame would hide
Right,
that.
right.
And that's not usually a problem here. So, well, like you said, quick and easy,
Yes.
in and out, nobody gets hurt. So-
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, we hope that this gave you some options for adding quick and easy ways to hang your next wall quilt or art quilt. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters, and Husqvarna Viking, keeping the world sewing for over 140 years.